Hello everyone, today I will show you how I created my basic dungeon generation script for a game that I'm developing. The game's name is Ricochet and you can find the devlogs on my channel. With this script you can create a randomly generated dungeon with same size rooms and different interiors. Basically we will generate some vector trees as the coordinates of our rooms and instantiate random rooms on these coordinates. We will also create a treasure room in the middle of the dungeon. Then we will destroy the opposing doors by casting Grace. Firstly, we will create a few simple rooms in Unity. You can create any type of room as long as they are the same size. Here I have created a 20 by 15 room using a plane for floors and cubes for walls and doors. I've changed the snap settings from the Edit, Grid and Snap menu. You can snap the objects by holding down left control on your keyboard. The door rotations are crucial here since we will be shooting rays towards the outside of the room, so the doors' Z directions should point outside. Then I've added some variations to my rooms by using some cubes and columns and save them all as prefabs. Now we can start coding. For this we will need a dungeon generation script and a door script. The door script will only handle the removal of the opposing doors. To begin with, we will need to know the width and height of our rooms, so we create a public float width and a public float height. Then we will need to enter the minimum and maximum amount of rooms that we want to generate. So we will create a public int min rooms and a public int max rooms. We will choose a random number between these two, so we will also create a variable to hold that value. Since I want to see the value in the inspector, I've also made this variable public. So public int total rooms. We will need a variable for the coordinates of the first room that we want to generate. This will be vector tree room coordinates equals to new vector tree. We will also need to store the coordinates for the next room that we'll create, and it will be a vector tree new room coordinate equals to new vector tree. We will need a list to store the directions that we want to choose randomly, and since I want to see the list, I've made it public list vector 2 directions equals to new list vector 2, and in here we will put new vector 2 0 1, which will be the up direction, new vector 2 0 minus 1 for down, new vector 2 1 0 for right, and new vector 2 minus 1 0 for left. And we will of course need a list to store our newly generated room coordinates, so public list vector 3 new rooms equals the new list vector 3. To create our rooms at these coordinates, we will need a list of prefabs. Public list game object room prefabs equals the new list game object. And finally, since we want a specific room for our start and treasure rooms, we will create a variable for both public game object start room and public game object treasure room. Now let's go back to Unity and we will create an empty game object called dungeon generator and drag and drop our script on it. We will enter our room width and height values, enter the minimum and maximum amount of rooms we want, drag and drop our room prefabs into the room prefabs list, and lastly drag and drop our start and treasure room prefabs. I will also create a large plane for the background and move it a little bit below the ground level, and then move the camera to a top-down position and make it orthographic so we can see our dungeon generation better. Now we can go back to our dungeon generator script. In our start method, we will now choose a random number between our min and max amounts of rooms. So total rooms equals to random.range min rooms to max rooms. We will set our starting coordinate to 0, 0, 0 with room coordinate equals to new vector 3, 0, 0, 0, and add it to our coordinates list by typing new rooms.add room coordinates. Now we will create a load room method to pick a random direction and use this direction to get our next room's coordinates. And for that we will need an int dir as in direction equals to random.range from 0 to our directions list.count amount. After that we will add the width and height of our room to our starting coordinate and then multiply it with the direction. So new room coordinate equals to new vector 3 room coordinate.x plus width times direction dir.x room coordinate.y comma room coordinate.z plus height times direction dir.y. We will add this new coordinate to our list, so new rooms.add new room coordinate. Now this part will be optional, but I've added a small script to my code to prevent clogged up rooms. I've stored the last direction we picked in a variable and added that direction to our directions list so that we get a more linear dungeon flow by increasing the chance we get the same direction as our last one. And this will only take 2 lines of code. So vector 2 last dir as in last direction equals to direction dir and direction.add last dir. Now we have a method to create our next room, but we will need to do this repeatedly until we reach the total number of rooms. So we will create a room coordinates method while our new rooms.count is less than total rooms. We will use a for loop to create a new coordinate until we reach the total rooms amount. For this we will call our load room method every time the loop repeats, and every time we get a new coordinate we will set it as our previous coordinate by saying room coordinates equals to new room coordinates. Now if we call our room coordinates method in our start method, we generate the random coordinates, but we have a slight problem. We sometimes get the same coordinates twice or even thrice. I think this is the most crucial part of these dungeon generation scripts. You can try to fix this issue in different ways, but my solution was to use a link to find and remove the duplicates from our coordinates list and then repeat the while loop. So for this we use the link code in the while loop, new rooms equals to new rooms.distinct.toList. Now to keep the while and for loops running, we will need to replace the 0 in the loop with new rooms.count. This way we'll start with 1, which is our start room, and then go up until we reach the total rooms amount. Now we can safely generate our room coordinates, and all we need to do is instantiate our rooms on these coordinates. So we will create a create rooms method. We will create a game object variable to store our room information. We will use a for loop to place our rooms. So for int I equals to 0, I smaller than total rooms, I plus plus, and to place our specific start room we will use an if statement. If I equals to 0, then the new room will be equal to instantiate start room at the new room I position and with no rotation, so quaternion.identity. Then we will set new rooms parent to dungeon generator so it looks tidy in the hierarchy window. So new room.transform.parent equals to transform. Similarly, we can place our treasure room to a specific location. In this instance, I wanted to place my treasure room somewhere around the middle of the dungeon, as in the half amount of our total rooms. So else if I equals to metf dot round to int total rooms divided by 2, this will give us the halfway point. And now, just like the start room, new room will be equals to instantiate treasure room new rooms I quaternion.identity, and we set the parent again, so just copy and paste this line. And finally, for the rest, we will want to get a random room from our prefabs, and instantiate that random room. To do that, we will simply say else and copy the previous code. We'll just add int rand equals to random.range 0 to room prefabs.count, and instead of the treasure room we will just say room prefabs rand. To safely call this method after our coordinates are created, we will create a boolean. So bool done getting coordinates equals to false, and we will place this into our room coordinates method after the while loop and check if we have enough coordinates in our list. If new rooms.count equals to total rooms, done getting coordinates equals true. And finally, in the update method, we will check if the bool is true, and then we will instantiate the room prefabs. So update if done getting coordinates create rooms, and of course we will set done getting coordinates to false so we don't create rooms continuously. Now if we save and go back to Unity, we will see our dungeon randomly generating each time we hit play. We can also see our treasure room being created somewhere in the middle. Finally, we'll have a look at our door script. We will create a variable to store the hit value of our array, so raycast hit. Then in the update method, we will cast our array by saying physics.raycast from the transforms position towards transforms forward direction, which is the z direction, out hit, and we'll set the distance to 1. Now if our hit.collider is not equals to null and hit.collider.compare tag is door, we will destroy both the hit and this door. So destroy hit.collider.gameObject and destroy gameObject. Else, if we don't hit anything, we will simply return. Now we'll save this, go back to Unity and place the script on all of our doors, and also change the tag of our doors into door. And if we hit play, we can see the opposing doors are being turned into little hallways. And there we have it. This is how I created my own dungeon generation script for my game Ricochet. I hope this was helpful for you. If you're interested, you can check out my Ricochet devlog playlist. So thank you for watching and have a nice day.